What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are checking out a ranking from IGN, and they're going to be ranking all the X-Men movies from worst to best. We'll see how this goes. Sometimes IGN can be silly with their rankings. Sometimes they're pretty spot on, but most of the times they're a little off. So I'm going to check out their rankings. I'm going to see whether I agree or disagree. So let me know in the comments below if they're right or if they're wrong. I'm also going to be doing a ranking of my own in a couple days of these movies. So with that said, guys, if you want to see that, make sure to like, subscribe, turn notifications, and let's begin.
Now that the Merc with a mouth works for Mickey Mouse, the days of Fox's X-Men movies are truly a future past. Yes, Ryan Reynolds' fourth wall-breaking hero is back for Deadpool and Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman is returning as Logan, clad in some long-overdue yellow spandex, but make no mistake about it, Marvel's Merry Mutants may evolve yet again to find their place in the MCU, but Fox's flavor of X-Flicks is officially extinct. So in the interest of paying respects and maybe dancing on some graves, it's time for the most definitive ranking of the X-Men movies that you, and we actually, can be mad about.
Alright, let's go.
Fox X-Men movies may not have gotten high marks across the board, but there's no denying that the series laid much of the groundwork for our modern superhero movie landscape. So without further ado, let's take a look back at these past 24 years of mutant madness, the good, the bad, and the origins. This is the Fox X-Men movies, the final ranking.
That's fair. I had foreseen this.
A Wolverine movie! What could possibly go wrong? Well, rather than diving into Logan's rich backstory, Hugh Jackman's first solo outing was a scattered mess that not only failed as any kind of satisfying standalone adventure, it seemed to doubt that Wolverine or Jackman had the ability to, well, stand alone. The old knucklehead shared the screen with a rogues gallery of side characters, none of whom were utilized particularly well, and in some cases were flat out squandered. We finally got a Gambit in live action, and they made him look like a pickup artist street magician. I mean, that's actually pretty on brand for Gambit, but still. Worst of all, though, was Deadpool. It's unclear what studio exec had the bright idea of taking the fan favorite Merc with a mouth and then literally sewing his mouth shut, but thankfully Ryan Reynolds has gone above and beyond to redeem himself for this botched experiment.
Hey, it's me. Don't scratch. Just cleaning up the timelines.
Alright, so before we get further, that's fair. I think we all can kind of agree that X-Men Origins is definitely most likely the worst of the X-Men movies. It was really bad when it came out. It's still bad. I think I actually remember there was this this unfinished version of the original film. Like they finished it, but they didn't finish all the special effects. And I remember that really got passed around through like early days LimeWire type stuff. I remember watching it on my iPod Touch, and I allegedly watched it on my iPod Touch. But yeah, that cut was bad, and then the movie came out and it was just as bad, just less ugly. So I'd say overall, the one redeeming factor of the Wolverine or Origins is that I think that out of all the movies, Logan or Hugh Jackman, I think he looks the best in that movie. I think like out of all the movies, his look, it's the best. But when it comes to pretty much anything else, the movies, it's bad. So I could see that. That's a good argument.
Power inside you. That power is you.
A producer and writer on the X-Men films going back to The Last Stand, director Simon Kinberg took a stab at the classic Dark Phoenix saga for a second time in this, the final Fox X-Men movie to hit theaters, not counting the spin-off The New Mutants, that is. Unfortunately, the watershed story
I forgot about
the
New
Chris
Mutants.
Claremont and John Byrne comics run was once again underserved, not given enough build-up or payoff for its cataclysmic stakes to properly matter. It was a problem the X-Men movies always faced. From the very beginning, they never quite seemed to know how to slide into the more over-the-top aspects of their source material. It's better to burn out than fade away, but sadly, with Dark Phoenix, the core X-Men series did the latter. But hey, honorable mention for having Dazzler perform at a kegger in the woods outside Xavier's mansion.
Okay, I guess that's fair. I saw that movie. I think it gets a little more hate than it deserves, but it's definitely not good either. I think a lot of X-Men movies get more hate than they deserve, besides Origins. Origins is the one that's allowed to have it. He mentioned New Mutants. I completely forgot about that movie. I never even watched it, so I have no idea where I'd put that on my ranking. I have to maybe watch that I probably won't. Maybe I'll try to watch that before I do my ranking. Maybe I did watch that movie. I don't even know, man. That's just one of those movies. Just kind of, it is what it is. Okay, Dark Phoenix being right in front of Origins, I would give that an okay. I think that's okay. And you know, that came out at a time when the MCU was like at its peak. So it does make me wonder how different things would have been. Would that movie have been perceived better if the MCU was kind of at its point right now, where it's like at its lowest it's ever been? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Would people have liked it more if it was going up against, not Deadpool, but going up like against the Marvels or something like that? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not, but another timeline, I guess.
X-Men Apocalypse marginalizes key relationships, particularly Xavier and Magneto's, in favor of establishing new ones like that of Ty Sheridan and Sophie Turner's Cyclops and Jean Grey. The problem is, the new younger cast, rebooted in the aftermath of X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, doesn't have much of an impact. Meanwhile, Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse seemed like a more faithful reinvention of Ivan Ooze than En Sabah Nur.
Ivan Ooze. True. He looks like Ivan Ooze, 100%.
One of the final shots revealed the X-Men in some of the most comic-accurate costumes yet, which were then completely scrapped when the team returned for Dark Phoenix. What are those, pajamas?
Any questions?
Yeah.
How'd they mess that up? Okay, Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, they kind of fall in the same category for me. I think that they are more hated than they need to be, but their potential could have been amazing, and they just failed. Like, that's just one of those things where it's like, I don't think they're the worst movies ever. I think they're just way okay, and they could have been really, really good, and they weren't. So that, you know, it is what it is.
The Last Stand has its moments, but as with Dark Phoenix, adapting the more revered aspects of the comics is not among them. And the film unfortunately feels pretty cheap at times, clearly suffering from the last-minute director swap that saw Brett Ratner coming on board replacing Matthew Vaughn. Don't worry though, Vaughn would leave his mark on the series soon enough, as we'll soon see, much higher in this list. The classic Dark Phoenix saga is one of the most heart-wrenching epic tales in X-Men history, but it's a complete loss as depicted here, and some of the greatest sins of the original trilogy of the X movies are most apparent in The Last Stand, from the sidelining of beloved characters like Cyclops, to the addition of too many mutants with no room to properly service them, to the over-reliance on Wolverine. But hey, at least they did the Juggernaut meme. Remember the Juggernaut meme?
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
It's the Juggernaut from the meme.
I actually like The Last Stand. I know that it gets hate, and I understand it is the weakest of the original three, but I mean, I guess when you compare it with a bunch of other movies that are pretty mediocre, it's one of the higher mediocre ones, I guess you could say. I think Wolverine's great in it. I never really liked Cyclops in the first three, so I was kind of okay when he passed away. It kind of made sense for the story they were telling anyways. And I always liked the Golden Gate Bridge moment in the movie, as well as the final showdown with like Logan and Jean, or she's the Phoenix by that point. But when he's like walking up the hill to her, I don't know. You can attack that movie all you want. You can complain about as much as you want about that movie. You can say the entire movie is bad. But that scene, that final scene where Logan's slowly getting like withered away, but his healing factor is keeping himself from getting like obliterated like everybody else. And there are so many different dynamics with that scene, because you think of it like this, like Logan or Wolverine, they're walking up the hill towards her, right? And there's Jean and the Phoenix. It's like the Phoenix is trying to kill Wolverine, but Jean is inside of the Phoenix trying to keep the Phoenix from killing Wolverine. And Wolverine, of course, has his healing factor, and he's slowly trudging his way up there. He knows what he has to do. He knows he has to kill her. And Jean is kind of fighting the Phoenix inside of the Phoenix to try to get him there so she can be freed. I hate that movie all you want, but I will defend that scene till the end of my days. I think that's a great scene, and actually a really solid way to send out the franchise at the time, that trilogy. But yeah, that's what I think anyways.
They'll kill you!
He's right, it's magic. So am I.
The New Mutants was an interesting postscript to the X-Men movies at Fox, a long-delayed endeavor that gave us a group of characters new to the Fox Marvel Universe. The titular gifted youngsters were played by Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, Blue Hunt, Henry Zaga, and Anya Taylor-Joy.
Because I killed 18 men.
The New Mutants is actually pretty fun, creatively borrowing some fairly out-there ideas from the early issues of the comic. like a giant demon bear, for instance. Unfortunately, having its release date pushed time and again, getting caught up in the Disney acquisition of Fox, and suffering from behind-the-scenes chatter of a film the studios didn't have any faith in, The New Mutants finally limped out during a COVID release to a very meek commercial reception. It's too bad though, because the further adventures of Wolfsbane, Magic, Cannonball, Mirage, and Sunspot could have taken the X-Men movies in a whole new direction. And come on, Anya Taylor-Joy is spot on for Magic, though she was weirdly racist for some reason. I don't know why they chose to do that.
You want a buffalo wing? You people love buffalo, don't you?
Jeez.
Okay, so I don't remember that movie. I can't comment on it. I'm sure I've watched it. I have it on 4K. I'm sure I've watched it. I just cannot remember anything about it. I remember the sword. I remember thinking that there's a lot of people in that movie with like odd faces. Like a lot of the actors have odd faces. But it's all right. Like I'm not against it or I can't remember it, so I can't really complain or not. So since I can't complain, let's continue.
Oh my God, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel. Oh no, they're right here.
Wade Wilson's second solo film is short on plot while also managing to be crasser, gorier, and funnier than its predecessor, which is pretty much what you want from a Deadpool movie. And yet, despite the character's trademark flippancy, there's a real unexpected warmth to Deadpool 2 as well. They asked me to host this video, and I firmly believe that Deadpool 2 is the best X-Men movie, and that it manages to deliver colorful characters fighting for the fate of existence, plenty of action, humor, and genuine emotional moments, plus an easy-to-hate monster of the week. The big bad in that movie is the pedophile headmaster of a school that tortures mutant kids, and they somehow managed to totally nail Cable's character without getting mired in his convoluted backstory, and Colossus and Juggernaut beat the shit out of each other, and it's awesome. Feels like picking up an issue of the comics. Sometimes there's a lot going on, but nothing really happens. Also worth an honorable mention in this list is Once Upon a Deadpool, the PG-13 re-edit of Deadpool 2. Ryan Reynolds' marquee character really works best in his full R-rated glory, but for anybody who wants a neutered version, well, the Merc with a Mouth has you covered.
Which means we only get 2, 1, and a glass of white wine.
Okay, so I actually remember liking Deadpool 2 more than the first one when it first came out in theaters. Upon rewatching it a couple days ago to get ready for Deadpool and Wolverine, I have discovered that I do like the first one a little bit more than the second one, but I think they're both super solid. I think that overall this trilogy is going to be a nice, solid trilogy. We're going to look back at these movies and we're going to be like, those were nice. But I do think that the second would be considered the weakest, but that doesn't mean like it's bad, right? Like it's not like one's up here and then the second's down here and the third one's all the way up here. No, it's like they're all there, like they're all next to each other in my opinion. So that's great. Behind the X-Men movies, I don't know. I don't think I could put them behind the X-Men movies. Maybe. I don't know. It depends, because the thing is, like, Deadpool is considered part of the X-Men universe, obviously. But they're kind of their own thing altogether as well. So it's like, it is weird to put them in an X-Men ranking, because at the end of the day, they are not really X-Men movies. I don't know. I think it depends on my mood. Like, if I want an X-Men movie, then I'm going to pick an X-Men movie, right? But if I want a Deadpool movie, I'm not going to pick an X-Men movie, right? I'm going to pick a Deadpool movie. So, I don't know. Maybe it's might be wrong to put the Deadpool movies in a ranking with the X-Men just because they're part of the same franchise. I don't know. That's just me.
No.
The original X-Men deserves credit for helping to shape the then fledgling modern superhero film genre. Mutant superpowers were merged into a real-world setting that made it feel plausible that a guy who could do this could potentially be standing next to you in line at the train station. The film took a big step towards normalizing comic book shenanigans for mainstream audiences in the year 2000, who basically only knew about characters like Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. But at the same time, the film sometimes feels embarrassed by its pulpy origins.
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Yeah, costumes beyond leather duds were off limits. It's unclear if that was just a stylistic choice or if they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of the Matrix movies and Blade. Looking at X-Men today, the budget strains against the very notion of mutant superpowers, and that finale feels pretty small when compared to what was yet to come, but still, this was the X-Men in live action. And Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was a win in and of itself, and hey, we all learned what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning.
The same thing that happens to everything else.
That line. Okay, I'll have to say this. Back in like the early 2000s, you could like X-Men, you could like Spider-Man, you could like the Hulk, you could like Blade. There was all these different like Marvel franchises that were all there. That's kind of like were separated. But the early 2000s, you could like all of those, but deep down you were just one of those franchises. Like one of those was like your thing. And for me, while I liked the X-Men a lot, it was Spider-Man for me. Like Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's, those were my superhero movies. You know what I'm saying? Like the Hulk was fine. The Ang Lee one, it's pretty rough now, but I remember back then as a kid I liked it. The Blades were pretty cool, but I was pretty young at the time, so I didn't really get to watch them as much. They were kind of much more bloodier and gorier than what Toby was doing and what the X-Men and like I said, Hulk was doing. Yeah, so I was more of a Sam Raimi Spider-Man kid, and so the X-Men were there just kind of to be there, but I didn't really care about them. Besides Wolverine. Wolverine was really cool too. But anyways, getting back to this, X-Men 1, I liked, but I remember never really loving it, and even till this day, I don't love it. Like, it's still very fun. It's a really good intro into this universe. It's just some movies were better than it, some movies were worse, but overall, it's just a very fine film, in my opinion.
Really?
Speaking of Wolverine, as one is prone to do on an X-Men movie roundup list, after the X-Men Origins mess, there was a lot at stake for Jackman on Wolverine's second solo film, but working with director James Mangold, they nailed it. The Wolverine takes the haunted immortal Logan off on his own adventure, giving him an almost James Bond-like arc, riffing on the character's famed adventures in Japan from the comics, and keeping mostly grounded, if you don't count that giant CGI samurai suit in the third act. That's okay though, as Mangold and Jackman would take one more try at the character soon enough. Personally, I'll never forgive this movie for teasing Wolverine's brown costume and mask and then never actually doing anything with it. What's up with Fox doing this? Hey kids, remember this thing from the comics that you love? Too bad!
Fox did have that problem. They did do that.
Interesting.
You used to be a better.
Okay, I like the Wolverine a lot. I actually think that's probably one of my top 3 in the entire franchise. I have to look at it. Like I said, for my ranking, I'll do a deeper dive and actually figure that out. But the Wolverine was definitely really fun. I remember being surprised by it. I remember not liking the ending though, the Silver Samurai fight, but as time has gone on, I actually think that compared to a lot of MCU stuff we've seen is more tame now, and I actually do like it, so it's interesting. But yeah, I think for the most part, the rest of this video I'm going to agree with to a certain point, but we'll see.
Shot.
Trust me, I still am.
X-Men Days of Future Past, much like its heroes, beat the odds and successfully merged the casts of both the original X-Men series and the First Class team, while also deftly and smartly adapting the classic comic story about mutant extinction and time travel. How great was it to see Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, and the rest all back in action? Not to mention that impossible to not love ending, which resurrects Famke Janssen and James Marsden's Jean and Scott. This is also arguably the most epic of X-Men films, a time-spanning, ambitiously rendered conflict. Too bad the continuity reboot that the film culminates with was mostly wiped away in subsequent films.
It's good to see everyone.
Yeah, so in my opinion, Days of Future Past is really good, but that should have been the last one. Like, that should have been the last X-Men movie, and then they reboot or something and do something different. I just think, like, I get what they were trying to do with the First Class crew and all of that, and people liked First Class, people liked Days of Future Past, but Future Past should have just been the last X-Men movie. I think that's just me, but that's what I think.
I've never said this, but don't swallow.
After his X-Men Origins near miss, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool was successfully revived on the big screen in this hit movie full of great one-liners, stylish action, weird and lovable characters, and heaps of fan service. Deadpool delivers a large dose of unwholesome fun and was just the oddball new direction that the X movies needed when it was released in 2016. In fact, Deadpool remains the highest grossing film in the X-Men Fox canon, while Deadpool 2 takes the number 2 spot. So perhaps it's no surprise that Deadpool and Wolverine is how Marvel boss Kevin Feige chose to merge the series with the MCU. Also, just throwing this out there, maybe when you've got like 50 plus years worth of characters wearing iconic brightly colored costumes, your movies might be more successful if you actually put them in those costumes instead of black tactical leather and neoprene or Gore-Tex or whatever the that stuff is.
Yeah,
I can go all day, Dopinder.
the MCU figured that out. It's bad. Yeah, as far as Deadpool goes, I kind of already talked about it. Yeah, it's a good movie. I like it more than the second one now. I think it was one of those movies that came out and kind of turned. No, I wouldn't say it turned the genre on its head, but it kind of like it presented another face to the genre that we could potentially pursue, which is really good. I like that.
Alex, get out! Do it!
The X franchise was in trouble after The Last Stand and X-Men Origins, but X-Men First Class rejuvenated the series with a prequel/semi-reboot approach that featured all new actors in a tale of Xavier and Magneto's early days. The arrival of then-on-the-cusp stars Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy proved to be invaluable casting, and while Jennifer Lawrence was a great Mystique, the actress's rise in popularity saw the shape-shifting mutant taking on a noticeably more central role in the team in later movies than her comic book counterpart ever did. Still, the new mutant faces, like Zoe Kravitz's Angel, Caleb Landry Jones' Banshee, and Kevin Bacon's villainous Sebastian Shaw, infused the film with an excitement that was lacking in the series after those last couple of outings. Kick-Ass director Matthew Vaughn, who as we noted earlier had come close to directing The Last Stand, brought a fresh, stylish, and exciting feel to the aging franchise, allowing it to rise from the creative ashes like a phoenix. I didn't write that part. Get mad at somebody else.
Wow.
And you should be Magneto.
Exceptional.
So this might be a hot take, but First Class was always pretty like okay to me. Upon rewatching it, I liked it more than I remember it being, but I still wouldn't put it up in the top 5 in the X-Men movies. It's all right. I like the cast. Like the new casting's good. That's the best thing I can say about the movie. The cast is solid. It's a solid cast, but overall the movie itself is just kind of okay, in my opinion. But I can still change my mind one day. But for right now, no, I'm not changing my mind.
X2 took the world created in the first film and broadened it, while also hinting at grander things to come. With the core cast now established and mostly beloved by viewers, X2 is also full of great action sequences, like the nighttime raid on the X-Mansion by Brian Cox's William Stryker and his forces, which leads to Hugh Jackman's Logan going full Wolverine. Sure, certain frustrations that many fans would have with the series are evident here, such as Cyclops getting sidelined from the main action, but characters like the new-to-the-series Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cumming, truly get to the heart of the X-Men's thematic strength. The idea of outcasts, hated and feared by a world that they are sworn to protect. And hey, you know, we love them for it.
Yeah, so X2 is always one of those movies that people will always say is one of the best and defend it, and that's cool. Like, I'm glad people like it. As time has gone on, I've really grew to like it, but I remember for a while I thought it was just kind of okay. And I actually liked the third one more because the third one had more, I wouldn't say more stakes. Well, actually, yeah, it definitely had more stakes, but it also was one of those things where it was like, there was just always something going on. But as time has gone on, X2, I can see and I understand why people really like it now, and it's definitely one of my favorites as well.
Hey, remember when this was the final story of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine? With Deadpool and Wolverine, that's no longer the case, but director James Mangold's Logan is in some ways the film many fans long wanted, replete with R-rated violence, adult language, and earth-shattering, gut-wrenching revelations. And yet, it's also so much more than that, serving as a meditation on the very nature of superhero stories and the comic book movie genre itself. Logan is an emotional, heavy picture, but it's also an uplifting one, buoyed not just by Jackman's pitch-perfect turn as the worn-out one-time Wolverine, who has one more fight left in him, but also by Patrick Stewart's return as an Xavier, who is a shell of his former self with a tragic secret, and of course, Daphne Keene's stupendous turn as Laura, aka X-23 to you. It's an amazing swan song for Wolverine, the character, and for Jackman, the actor, and it's also the best of the X-Men movies.
Interesting. Wait, what? Okay, so I just watched this ranking, and I guess they don't even have Deadpool and Wolverine as part of it, so I don't even know where they would rank that. I guess they're going to update this video. It's weird, this video just came out 2 days ago. They didn't really throw that part in there. They didn't talk about Deadpool, Wolverine at all, except for in the beginning. They even mentioned it. You forgot to rank it? What the heck? Okay, well, in that case, I guess we don't know what they're going to rank it, but overall, I'd say for what they have, most people are going to agree with this. The one thing I would say is First Class a little too high up. For me, anyways, I might move that back to like spot 8 in this ranking. I'd move Last Stand up a little further too. And I'd also probably move New Mutants back a little bit. But as far as things go, pretty solid ranking. If you guys enjoy this video, want to see more like this, please give me suggestions in the comments below. I could always use some ideas for different content to do for you guys. And if you enjoy this video and want to see more, make sure to like, subscribe, turn notifications for more. But that is it for now, guys. I will catch you later. Peace.